Hi, I just want to share what God has been teaching me basically this whole past year, but especially within these past 5 months. So, around my senior year of high school, I got really sick one weekend and I had to go to the ER. And I was just throwing up and I couldn't stop, and it was like the most severe pain I've ever had in my life. And before that I hadn't thrown up since I was 10 and I was 17. And after that, every couple months the same thing would happen. I would just be puking and vomiting, could not leave my bathroom for a whole entire day, and it was just terrible. And I went to a gastroenterologist, and they did an endoscopy and didn't really find anything, and nothing really happened after that. So I just basically suffered every couple months. But then at the end of last year in 2020, I did an allergy test and I found out that I was allergic to, well, a lot of things. But the top things were bananas, wheat, and casein, I don't know, which is found in cow's milk, so dairy. I cut out the top three things, which were bananas, wheat, and dairy. And I gave myself a cheat day, but other than that, I completely cut all three of those things out, which was really, really hard. So after I cut all that stuff out, I didn't get sick for 6 months, and my stomach didn't hurt ever, even though I still had one cheat day, which was usually on Saturday, where I would eat wheat and dairy. I completely stopped getting sick, and it was great. I was like, yes, problem solved. So in this past August, I moved to El Salvador to staff with Youth with a Mission. And so I lived at their base, and we take turns cooking the food. So we all help cook breakfast, lunch, or dinner. So all the staff makes the food. And I don't know if it was the food or the water, or if there was accidentally wheat and stuff. I have no clue. But I would get sick once a week. I was getting sick. I was in the bathroom throwing up, and it was terrible because I just felt so alone. I would be up for 3 hours in the middle of the night just throwing up while everyone was sleeping, and then the rest of the day I just felt terrible and I couldn't do anything. And it was the girls' room. They have a tin roof. There's no air conditioning. It's so hot, and there's nowhere else for me to lay down. I would be laying in a hot bed all day, just sweating and feeling so alone because everyone is out working and doing stuff. And it was terrible. It was one of the most loneliest times of my life, even though I was surrounded by people and I loved them and they took care of me and they did everything they could to help me feel better, but it was not good. And my food cravings were so bad. Oh my goodness. I wanted to eat donuts and mozzarella sticks and ice cream and just everything that you could think of that I'm not supposed to eat. And in El Salvador, there's no gluten substitutes in the store. Maybe you can find spaghetti, or I found these cookies one time at Walmart. But there are some things, but there are not a lot of options at all. I did not find gluten-free bread anywhere. I mean, maybe somewhere there is, but I couldn't find it. And dairy-free stuff, that does not exist in El Salvador, at least where I was. I don't know. And it's so crazy because here in the US, you can find so many things, and there's so many vegan cheeses you can buy at the store. I can eat pizza here, but in El Salvador, all that stuff was just gone. And basically, I still had a good diet though. I just lived off of chicken and rice and eggs and beans and salad. That was basically it. That's all I ate every day. And it was really, really hard. And I remember this one time, some staff members brought donuts one morning, and as soon as I saw the donuts, I had to turn away, and I walked to my room, and I probably got teary-eyed, I don't know. But I have cried over food that I'm never going to be able to eat again because, I just got so sick to the point where my mom made me come home from El Salvador. And even though I did not want to come home, I wanted to stay there because I knew that God called me there. And I was there from August till October 14th, I think. So I was there for like 2.5 months. And like the last week that I was there, I was so sick, and my stomach, like every single time I would eat, I was in severe pain. Like it was terrible, and I just dreaded eating, and I just felt so sick. Like everything was coming back, and I was really careful not to eat any wheat or dairy, and I was making sure that I was making sure that none of my food had that stuff in it. But I was getting so sick, and that last week my mom was like, okay, you have to come home, because I just everyone just felt really bad for me because I was just like crying all the time, and I just felt terrible, and my body was basically failing me. I couldn't eat anything, and it was just terrible. So yeah, so when I ended up coming back to the States in October, I immediately went to the ER the next day that I got home, and I got tested for COVID, and then also I found out that I had salmonella and COVID both at the same time, and I was like, oh, no wonder why I was so sick. But that wasn't like till the last week, so like I still have no idea why I was so sick those first 2 months. Like it could have been just the water making me sick. I don't know. Maybe I'm just allergic to El Salvador. So I was just so sick. When I was in El Salvador, whenever I would, because I used to have cheat days where I would eat on one day a week whatever I wanted, and I was perfectly fine. But like the smallest, like one time I had this really tiny piece of bread, and I got like immediately an hour later, I was like, oh, I'm gonna throw up, I'm gonna get sick, and I got really sick. So I don't know what happened, but I have since just entirely cut out wheat and dairy. I am never ever going to touch that stuff again. And that was kind of a really hard decision for me to make. Well, not hard because like I don't want to be sick. It was easy for me to make, but at the same time, it's just thinking about all the foods that I'm never ever going to eat again. And it's weird because now, so I have not eaten any wheat or dairy since August. So it's been 4 months of me not eating any wheat or dairy, and I'm starting to forget what like normal bread tastes like, what cheese tastes like, what ice cream tastes like, and it's kind of like weird, and it's sad, but it is a good thing because then I'm not gonna be so tempted to eat that stuff. But so when I was in El Salvador and I was getting sick all the time, I was being so careful to not eat that stuff. But that's like all I could think about was all the foods that I couldn't eat, and it was just, I was so just torn, and it was just awful because I can never eat that stuff again. And it's so weird because all my life I've just eaten whatever I wanted, and then within a year I've completely cut out wheat and dairy, and I'm like really careful. I read the labels to everything. So I really make sure. And since I've been home, I haven't gotten sick. I was thinking about a dream that I had it was during like when COVID first started in 2020. It was probably in like April or something. So I had this dream where I was at a gas station and I was really hungry. This was before I found out that I was allergic to a whole bunch of stuff. So I was still just eating whatever and getting sick like every few months, and I didn't know why. So I'm at the gas station and I'm looking for something to eat, and I see these like fudge brownies, and I love sweets, and I'm like, oh, I need to get those. So I get in line. So I'm walking to get in line to order brownies, and I see this other line forming, and I'm like, oh, like what's in that line? And I look, and there's Jesus, and there's people lined up, and they're like mostly families, and they're like meeting him and they're talking to him. And I was looking and I was like, oh my gosh, that's Jesus. So I started walking to his line, but then I looked at the brownies and I was like, I'm so hungry, like let me just get a brownie first. So then like I turn and I start walking to go get the brownies, but then like I look back at Jesus and I'm like, when am I ever gonna get this moment again to meet him? So I'm like, oh, I like, sorry, the brownies are gonna have to wait. So I hopped in the line to meet Jesus, and it finally gets to my turn, and I see him, and he just has the kindest eyes I've ever seen. Like, all I can remember is his eyes. So I look, me and Jesus were like holding each other's hands, and I'm just like staring at him, and I'm just like filled with so many emotions, like I don't know what to say. And Jesus, he's not saying anything either, he's just staring at me. But then he just gets like such a sad look in his eyes, and it's like, it was just, I don't know, it made me feel like why, I had no idea like why he looked so sad and he was staring at me. And I told him like, I'm gonna see you, like again, I'm gonna see you in heaven one day. And he wasn't saying anything, and it just like made me really upset. So I was like, why isn't Jesus saying anything to me? So then the dream ended, and I remember like waking up after the dream and just crying, because all I could remember was the look on his face, and I don't even know how to describe it. It was just like he was just looking at me just sadly, I guess. I don't know. So one day I was just having my quiet time, like maybe 2 months ago, when I first got home from El Salvador. When I came back to the States, I was having my quiet time, and the Holy Spirit brought up that dream again, because I remember after I had that dream, like for the longest time I was like, what does this mean? And like I didn't really get like an answer to like what exactly everything about the dream meant. So I didn't know. And it was over a year later, in October, it was over a year after I had that dream. So the Holy Spirit brought it up to me again, and I was thinking about it, and I was like, and it clicked, and all of it made sense, and I was like, wow. When I was standing there deciding which line to go in, this is so weird, because I was like deciding Jesus over my worldly desires, and specifically it was food. It was those brownies, which I can't eat those anymore unless they're gluten-free, and I chose Jesus over food, and that was before like all this stuff had happened. So that was just crazy to me that the Holy Spirit showed me that. And then I think Jesus was just looking at me sad, because he just knew all the stuff that I would go through, just like being sick. And like a big thing too was like I was just asking God, like, please heal me, because it is just so hard, especially in another country, to find food to eat and just not being able to like eat what everyone else is. And it's like, it is really a struggle, because whenever you're hungry, like you can't just go eat. You have to be like, okay, I need to make sure that this food doesn't have any wheat or dairy. And in El Salvador, it was so hard. The Holy Spirit just highlighted that to me, that like it was so weird, because in my dream I like made that choice, but I didn't realize how big of a choice I was making. Through this journey of learning that I'm allergic to stuff, it has brought a lot of self-control, like self-discipline. I have really had to discipline myself to just not eat that stuff and not look at that stuff and not long for the stuff that I can't have, because, you know, I just have a different body that's not normal, and that's just a struggle that I'm always going to have to deal with in my life. And that's okay, because Jesus is just, he's all that I need. And like food, like I used to love food, and sometimes I would just like think about my next meal, like right after you eat a meal, you're like, okay, what am I gonna have for my next meal? And that's all you can think about all day long. I didn't even realize that was one of my biggest, like, worldly desires was food, and it probably is like one of the biggest things for a lot of people, but you don't even realize it, because it's like, it's just food, it's always there, it's so easy to get it. But then when I was in El Salvador, it was so not easy. God has been teaching me to just put him first and just to look to him, because nothing in this world could satisfy me, not even food. And I've had to give that to him and everything else. Yeah, I've just been learning to just absolutely just take all of the desires of my flesh and give them to God, because none of that could ever satisfy me the way that he does. None of that could ever fill my heart. And it's been really hard just learning that and having to go through all this medical stuff. But yeah, so I just hope that you just go to God in your quiet time, and that you just ask him to reveal all of your fleshly, worldly desires, and that you are able to give that stuff to him and just lay it at his feet, and just realize that even when you have nothing, that you have Jesus, and he is absolutely enough. He always is enough. I just hope that whatever season of life you're going through, that you are going to your quiet place with Jesus every single day and talking to him, because it is just so lonely, and it's just honestly terrible when you don't have Jesus, and like you don't have anything to hold on to. Like, I don't understand where people just are able to function without him, because I absolutely cannot do anything without Jesus, without his love, without his peace. I don't know. But yeah, thank you for watching. Bye.